another match preview. We
Uh,
are back. We are back, and this time we're going to be talking about Friday night under the lights. It's Luton Town versus Derby, and as we were saying beforehand, my co-host Mark Ryman and we're running out of different things to say, aren't we?
yeah, we are a bit based on what's on the pitch. As I said in our championship prediction video, though, clearly not that many Kenilworth Road under the lights fixtures left before we move to the new ground, which is exciting and also sad at the same time. So let's hope for a decent atmosphere there. I think there will be a bit more positive vibes based on what happened on Monday. There should be. It was massive for our club. Plus, of course, the last home game was good against Stoke. Was it a corner turned? Well, clearly not. But if we can keep the home form going, at least that gives us something to cling on to, right?
Yeah, look, in the home form table, we're 8th in the home form table. Yes, the performances haven't all been convincing, but regardless, it's time to recap the last trip Luton Town had, which was the 2-0 defeat to Blackburn Rovers. So another away trip, and that makes it 7 away trips on the bounce where Luton Town have lost. And I actually put out a stat saying if you go all the way down the football pyramid to National League North-South, only 2 teams have lost their last 6, and that's Luton Town and Hemel Hempstead. And it actually goes back further because Luton have lost their last 7, Hemel Hempstead have lost their last 8. It's not good on the roads, but this was another one where Luton Town were undone by 2 bits of, well, I don't even say brilliance. It was 2 bits of shambolic defending, really. Weak defending.
Yeah, could have been undone a lot more as well, couldn't we? Let's be honest. I mean, by the end of the first half, I think I was quite pleased it was only 2-0. Yeah, I'm wearing this shirt from obviously last season in the Premier League, and it feels like it's a retro shirt. It's so long ago, it feels, since we put in a decent performance away from home. It's crazy, really. We just don't look like anything is going to change. The biggest disappointment for me, as you said, we'll keep it brief, so I'm not going to talk about the game too much. I think we've all had enough of reliving that. The biggest disappointment for me is that we don't look like we're learning from positives or negatives. Norwich was the blueprint, and even Rob said that. I'm sure he said that. And yet we do the same old nonsense 3-2-3, whatever it is.
3-2-3.
3-2-3-4-3. There we go. Got it.
We
got
might
it
as
out.
well be playing with 8 people on the pitch.
Yeah. I just listen the plot like our midfield. It's the 2. That's the reason why I mentioned it. But yeah, we're still playing that, and it's not working, and it feels like we're going to do it forever and a day, regardless of the fact that we got, people playing in the wrong position and everything else. That's the most disappointing thing. We haven't learned from the positives from the Norwich game.
Yeah, it's nothing changes. The needle returns to the start of the song. We all sing along like before. Wash, rinse, repeat. Any old cliche, just stick it out there. And of course, Liam Walsh, who's now going to have his feet up for Christmas, for missing 4 games at this time when it's going to be bam, bam, bam with the games that are coming up. And we need players, but alas, I think we're going to go unchanged throughout the Christmas period. It's just going to try and power through now.
We'd have only seen him for about a minute anyway. Let's be honest. He'd have been straight into the shins. Bang, gone. Idiot. Well, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously in the last game as well, we went completely unchanged from the team that beat Stoke, also with no substitutes. So it'll be interesting to see. We'll take a look at the team news, shall we? And see if Rob's going to make any changes ahead of this game against Derby. So this is recorded prior to Rob's press conference, but we've had the same team out for Stoke and Blackburn. And I'm guessing because of the I hate saying injury crisis. It's like we're in
Mm.
a perpetual injury crisis. So Liam Walsh, he's suspended. Surprise, surprise. Alfie Doughty, Amari Bell, Reece Burke, Ruel Walters, Shannon Baptiste, and Ted Mengi all out. Shannon Baptiste in particular, he's turning out to be quite a disappointing signing.
Who
But
knew signing injury-prone players would lead to them being injured a lot of the season, hey?
I know, right? Well, you know what? We had that with Alfie Doughty, where he was sick note before coming, and he's up until now he's been one of our most consistent players. So they probably thought, oh, we can do that again, and they've done it again. In the shape of, well, Reece Burke, he wasn't really like that before joining. Amari Bell, I don't know what's happened, but since he picked up that one injury, he's just picking up recurrent injuries now, and it's really worrying. But remember, he's over 30, so naturally he would start to deteriorate. The Ted Mengi one, the club haven't covered themselves in glory. Neither has Ted Mengi with regards to the refusal to have an operation. It's more Shannon Baptiste and Liam Walsh that are the issues, because they were sort of the players signed to replace Ross Barkley and Sambi Lokonga. And that's like...
What a ridiculous sentence, sorry. That's
I know,
ridiculous
right?
Sentence. Oh,
it's like receiving a PS5 for Christmas, and then you open the box and it's just a poo. That's been...
Oh, I thought you were going to say like a Game Boy or something. You just went straight for a poo.
No,
right.
Game Boys are awesome, mate.
Yeah,
like
no,
the old school Game Boy.
Yeah,
no,
right,
okay, it's like a mountain of poo that's been shaped into the shape of a PlayStation 5.
No, we're leaving that. Terrible. I mean, you mentioned Doughty before. It was a risk, kind of more calculated risk, and obviously it paid off, right? But very different position we found ourselves in at the start of this season, where we needed to replace the spine of a team, and you don't replace. Doughty wasn't. Well, he is now, of course, but at the time when we signed him, we weren't losing the spine of our team. We weren't losing everything creatively and defensively from that. With Nakamba injured, we needed to replace the spine of a team with people that were going to play nearly every match. And therefore, that signing as the only signing, when he's played, Baptiste has been great, but that as the only main signing for our midfield, that's just crazy. And of course, not paid off. Ted Mengi's situation is ridiculous, and it also points to the lack of communication this season from the club in general, which we've pointed out as being an issue, and it has been. I think the vast majority of fans are pretty understanding and aware that we are not Burnley, Sheffield United, and we're just going to buy everybody on the market. If you're open and honest about it, it would have helped. But situation is what it is. I guess in terms of the team, we know who's going to play. Where are they going to play, though? That's the big question. Hashioka, where else can he play? I mean, we've had him at left centre-back, right centre-back. Where is he going to play this time? In goal? Up front? Who knows?
He's got to play right centre-back. It worked against Stoke. I mean, other than letting Tom Cannon in for the first goal, it worked. And then playing him left centre-back, he looks like a guy that can't play left centre-back. He looks like a guy with no left foot.
Well, and Holmes played well left centre-back, so we swapped them. I mean, that for me is baffling. We need to play to our strengths first. I understand that, we need to look at the opposition. But putting players on the wrong side is not going to help that situation. It clearly didn't work, did it? So, it would be nice to see players more in their preferred positions. Obviously with the injury list we have, it's never going to be perfect, but we can do better than we have done. And I'd love to see Moses and Chong further up the pitch. Maybe we have to wait until the injured players are back. But I see it every game, especially when they are attacking. It's such a wasted resource, both of them. We are set up to play a 4-3-3. And we don't play it. It's so frustrating. I'm not going to go back into formation. I'm not, but I just want to see him further up the pitch.
Yeah, I agree so much. Mostly about the fact that we're set up for a 4-3-3. Stick Joe Johnson on. It's time. He came on for the last game. He looked all right. Look, if he's good enough for England under 19s, he's good enough for us right now when there is literally no other option. And if you want to protect him in the sense that he can't play the left of a back three. Just don't play a back three. And this is a manager. He's smart, but he's obviously stubborn. Just change it up. Playing a 3-4-3, it leaves us exposed in the middle of the park, as we've seen time and time again. We were clamoring to go to 3 in the middle, and we did that for a little bit, and things improved slightly. And now he's gone back to a 3-4-3. And the thing is, with that Stoke game, I think because that was the first time he went back to that formation, we got a win, so that justifies it for him. So, as long as the justification keeps coming and we don't get a negative result against Derby, then I guess it's 3-4-3 ahoy, but it's more like iceberg ahoy.
It really is. And it's well, we've talked about it already. Just to pick up on the Luton Town show as well, and what Phil and Wedge said about Krause. So I the only thing I listened to and disagreed with, I actually disagree. I think Krause is a good player, but he needs someone behind him. And the idea that Luke Berry was a better player, I think they're very different players, but I don't think Luke Berry would be any better than Krause in a 2-man midfield. I don't think it's really his fault completely. He needs the structure behind him. Luke Berry did well mainly in a 3-man midfield, and he was excellent, and we miss him. Absolutely we do. But yeah, just to say that, really, I think there's so many players that would benefit from having 4 at the back, or at least 3 in midfield.
Yeah, and we're coming up against loads of teams that have 3 in midfield, so it's very easy for a 2-man midfield to get pulled apart. One goes forward, one sits back, and then bam, there's a massive open gap in the middle of the park. Ball gets slotted right through them, or they split, and then the ball gets again put through them. And we're seeing that time and time and time again. It's very frustrating that we're persisting again with 3-4-3. And yes, I agree. I think Krause and Clark right now are the best of a bad bunch. But the problem is they need someone behind them.
They are not Barkley and Lokonga.
Yeah, that's it.
Aren't. They're the players that I think there seems to be a real lack of direction from Rob, which means that's okay if you've got someone with the experience and skill of Ross Barkley, because he can read the game perfectly. He doesn't need to be told where to be. And that's not a slight on anybody else, but that is somebody who is now scoring goals in the Champions League. That's the level that we need to play the system that Rob, without the direction we're giving them. So it's not slight on our current players, but it's crazy that we're expecting, Jordan Clark and Krause and whoever else to do that same job. It's never going to happen.
Oh, no. I know. It doesn't matter what we say, though, because we're not on the training grounds. Rob Edwards doesn't watch this. And he'll just keep doing what he does because the board are going to back him. They're going to back him throughout the season. And we've discussed it before, and I've discussed it in the post-match. I don't see Rob going anywhere. He's just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And unless it gets absolutely crazy and we're rooted to the bottom, then the club might have to make a decision. But right now, he's not going anywhere. He really isn't. But let's have a look at something more positive, shall we?
Please.
It's time for previous encounters. As always, make sure to check out hattersheritage.co.uk for every single encounter between Luton Town and Derby, going back all the time to the formation of both football clubs, pictures, famous encounters, lineups, match reports. Everything is there. Just check it out. I put the link in the description below this video. But for the benefit of right here and now, I've got FOTMob, and it goes back to 2019 for when Luton Town made it back into the Championship. I got 6 games. What's the spread?
Now, this is difficult because we struggled against Derby when we first came up, but we've done a lot better. And obviously not played them in a while either because they were down League Two, not quite, in League One. 6 games. I'm going to go 3 each and 1 draw.
So it's 3 wins for Luton, 2 wins for Derby, and 1 draw.
Close. Very close.
Very close.
As I
and your
counted to
maths,
7.
your maths was terrible there.
Yeah. God, that's terrifying, isn't it? Okay,
Any games?
We won't talk about my profession. Right? Okay,
No,
go on,
of course.
carry on.
Yeah. Any games? I was going to say, at least you're not a maths teacher.
No,
any
I'm
games
not,
that stick in your mind? For me, it's the one with Sluga. And Matt Pearson passed it back to him.
I was there, yeah.
That was a mess of a game.
My in-laws are Derby fans as well. So, yeah, they were there. We met for a drink after the game and they had a good laugh about it. Yeah, that was awful. No, that wasn't the one. I was thinking the Wayne Rooney, The School's on Your Back. That was one of my favourite chants to sing at Kenilworth Road. There was other chants about Wayne Rooney that evening, but this is a PG show and we won't see them. But yeah, that 3-2 game was excellent, wasn't it? What a game that was, and in the first season back in the champ. But yeah, you're right. The Sluga just missed the ball completely, went straight under his foot at Pride Park. Pride Park's not been a great ground for us. But Derby away will always hold a bit of a soft spot for me. My first away game was at the old baseball ground. Just there, the picture of the floodlights. Wasn't a particularly memorable game in terms of that, but my dad taking me to my first away game was. So Derby away will always hold some fond memories. But yeah, we've done all right, haven't we, at home, particularly in the last few years against them lot.
Yeah, I remember that 3-2, and when Rooney was lining up against Luton Town, I was thinking, oh my God, Wayne Rooney is playing against Luton Town. But he wasn't like the Wayne Rooney of old, was he? He didn't really run around too much. That was
still pinged a few in, didn't he? But yeah. He didn't run around much, no. But he could still score a few screamers.
Yeah, he was. It was. I think it was a promotion from 32 Red at the time, so hence why he had 32 on the back of his shirt. For me, I remember Danny Hilton. I think it might be Danny Hilton's final goal for Luton Town, the 1-0. Yeah. And what a goal it was, considering Danny Hilton had looked really so far out of his depth for the entire time that Luton Town had been in the Championship. And then he scores this tremendous goal from the edge of the box. I
was going to say, was it from outside the area? Was that maybe one of his only goals he scored from outside the box as well? I think it was
fitting that it was his final goal for us as well.
Yeah, really good goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I remember it was quite far out. It might have been on the edge of the box, but it was a beautiful finish. It really was. But let's get some thoughts from the opposition, and we'll kick it over to Phil. I think everyone watching this might recognise the person that we got to tell us all about Derby this week. Take it away, Phil.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Ollie, and thank you, Mark. Today, I'll be previewing the game on Friday night at Kenilworth Road against Derby County, and I'll be joined by Ryan Dilks, which I'm looking forward to, and you'll hear from him in a short while. As for the Hatters, from my own personal perspective, it's been a bit of a rubbish, another away trip that we have to reflect on, unfortunately. But on a positive note, we're back at home, and that's where we collect pretty much all of our points. So I'm looking forward to the fact that we'll be back at Kenilworth Road with the option to hopefully scrape another win, potentially play well and get another win. That would be just nice, wouldn't it? But Derby County under the lights at Kenilworth Road. We'll be welcoming back some players that have been absolute legends for the club, I would argue. We've got James Collins coming back, whose goal-scoring record for us was absolutely phenomenal. And we've got a former club captain coming back as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they're getting on with Derby County. Looking forward to talking to Ryan about them. And here he is. Let's see what Ryan had to say. So everyone, as promised, I've got Ryan here. First things first, as I always do, whenever I introduce someone from the Oppo podcast, I am going to ask Ryan to do a bit of free advertising, really, so he can get a few more followers. So Ryan, where can people catch your content first and foremost and bag you a few follows?
So we are on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, basically, Second Tier Podcast. But we're also now on YouTube, and I know a lot of people like to watch podcasts for some reason. But we're growing very steadily on YouTube. So if you fancy subscribing to us there as well, that's where you can watch us as well. So basically everywhere. We are everywhere, Phil.
Lovely stuff. I've seen some of your stuff personally as well. We were just talking about it off air about your latest poll about who's the best free kick taker from 25 yards, and Luton fans all know that I've gone for George Moncur. So it's a great podcast. I enjoy listening, and actually I have started to watch you guys as well. So I feel like as someone that's been forced by Ollie to go into the world of YouTube, I may as well start watching people as well rather than just listening. So people are unfortunate enough to see my face every week, so I'll go and watch some others. But Ryan, we're here to talk about Derby, and in the prelude to our game at Kenilworth Road on Friday night, and you must be like absolutely buzzing because the last two results I would argue have probably been the best of your season so far. You've gone away to Derby, gone away to Turf Moor and held them to a 0-0 draw and got a point on the road, and then you've welcomed Pompey. And absolutely spanked them 4-0. And I saw that, I think it was Mendes Lang in his post-match interview on the pitch said that you were sort of due to give someone a bit of a hammering. What are your thoughts on that? Because I thought it was a typical professional footballer's sort of response to, it was all right. But how did you find the game, and what's the feelings after the 4-0 win?
How did I find the game? Staggering, because I never saw that coming in a million years. I have absolutely no idea what Mendes Lang was talking about, saying that we were due to give someone a spanking, because we definitely haven't. To be honest, up until the Burnley game, we had been playing pretty poorly. I think it was 1 win in 11 prior to that, and we thoroughly deserved that run of form because we weren't playing as well as we were earlier in the season. And then the Burnley game was a bit surprising because I think everyone was just expecting us to comfortably lose that one. So for us to get a point, great result. Yeah. And then the Portsmouth game came completely out of nowhere, particularly because Portsmouth have been in bloody good form recently. So I will point out, I thought Portsmouth were shocking. One of the worst teams I've seen come to Pride Park this season. And I think it was about 75% down to Portsmouth playing really poorly than it was us playing well. Maybe I'm just being cynical. That's how I saw it, though. So, the last two results have been very surprising. Whether that's a sign of us turning our fortunes around, I don't know. But it's a bit strange watching Derby this season, I will say that.
I mean, it's one of those ones where I'll admit to you, I was I've been in quite regular contact with Andy from the PO Forecast, and I messaged him, and he was very angry. He was very, very angry when I messaged him, and I genuinely wasn't trying to sort of dig him out or anything like that. I just couldn't believe the scoreline. Like, it's one of those ones where I wouldn't have put it past Derby to win. It wasn't that. It was just the manner in which I did it. And I think that when the fourth goal went in, I think it was Harness that just pretty much just waltzed through their defence. And it just seemed like it was just really, really easy. You know, it was a weird one.
That's why I say it's a strange game, because I fully expected Portsmouth to give Derby a game. And if they did, I'm not sure Derby would have won that, which is strange to say about a 4-0, right? But Derby, just everything we did seemed to go right. But I don't think we still played particularly well. It's such a strange game to decipher. But I think, as I say, a lot of it was down to Portsmouth just being very poor on the day, as opposed to us being very good.
Well, when we were speaking, when we were off air, we were saying about the fact that there's trepidation for both of us. I mean, from Luton's perspective, we're off the back of another away loss, and our away form is absolutely ghastly. But we only get points at home. And I was explaining about the fact that there's a lot of pressure on Luton Town to make the most of the home fixtures, because quite frankly, the away form is a write-off at the minute. But you weren't so confident about your own away form. So it's going to be an interesting one where you're off the back of a hugely sort of confidence-boosting win. Luton are down in the trenches, but like I say, we're playing in the opposite place where we would both like to be playing at the minute. So, and I'm interested to sort of have your thoughts on how you think the game is going to go. And because I see that you've got an injury, I see that Cashin's out. And who do you think is going to replace him at the back? Have you got any ideas, or is it a case of a few options you've got?
I imagine it'll probably be Nat Phillips, who is on loan from Liverpool. I think most people know who Nat Phillips is by this stage, if Cashin is out. And he's been someone, he's been a bit of a strange case, because when he was signed, I think Derby fans were quite excited about that signing. But because of the form of Cashin and Curtis Nelson, not Wes Nelson. Wes Nelson was the guy who was on Love Island, who is Curtis Nelson's brother. Crazy. But those two have been fantastic this season. So Phillips hasn't really had a look in, which has led to us being a bit worried about whether he's going to get recalled. But he's a really good person to bring in as an alternative. But yeah, going back off what you were saying about the home and away, Derby have been pretty shocking away from home this season. Just one win on the road so far. I think I'm right in saying we've only lost one of our last 4 away games, but that really doesn't paint the picture properly, because I don't think you'll find a more negative team when it comes to how they approach away games, where it's very much, we're just camped in our own half. We'll venture forward every so often, but when we do, it's very, very, very cautiously.
Right.
And to put it bluntly, I think Paul Warren is more than happy to get a point from each away game this season. If we get the win, then that's just a bonus. So I fully expect Derby to sit in against Luton and try and hit them when they can. I think from what I've seen of Luton at home this season, results have been good, especially compared to the away form, but I think Derby will know that Luton can be got at home. I mean, the result that stands out particularly to me was that Hull game not too long ago, where
how we got 3 points.
How Luton won that game, I have no idea. And it wouldn't surprise me if Derby have looked at that and go, yeah, the results have been pretty good, but they can easily be got at. So I think Derby will be hopeful of getting something from this game and just trying to frustrate Luton as much as possible, because look, Luton, from what I've seen on plenty of occasions, Rob Edwards is very set piece and cross heavy. And Derby are pretty good at defending and attacking when it comes to set pieces and crosses. So I think they'll be confident of getting something from the game at the very least.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. That one of the big problems that Luton have always had is being able to break teams down when they sit in at home, just because of the very nature of the way we play. You've mentioned it yourself. We're very, very cross and set piece heavy, and it's one of those ones where largely our midfield has been bypassed even at home. And you said it yourself. We've not played well to get those wins. We've just battled and scraped through to get those wins at home. There's been nothing special about it. So if anything, Derby could really sort of have a right good go if they wanted to, with the confidence that, truth be told, we've got a makeshift back 3/back 5. We tend to go long up to Morris, Adebayo and Brown and sort of hope that something sticks.
And I'll tell you what as well, Phil. If Luton do approach it where they are just doing crosses and set pieces repeatedly, if we have got Nelson and Phillips defending, I love Adebayo and Morris, but they will have a tough game against those two, because
100%.
They are very well prepared when it comes to that. They're basically their strengths. That's their food and drink, just heading things away all day. So I think Rob Edwards needs to be a bit more clever when it comes to this, but
he does.
But plenty of times this season.
We have said that plenty of times this season, and like I say, he's still there. We live in hope, but we don't live in expectation at the moment. So, but anyway, changing the subject slightly away from it, and I know that it's meant to be the preview for the game, but I couldn't have you on without sort of mentioning a couple of cult heroes for Luton Town, and we were fortunate enough to have James Collins at his absolute peak. I would argue he pretty much got us through the divisions really in League 2, League 1, and his goal scoring ratio for us was brilliant. And I just wanted to sort of get a Derby fan's perspective on James Collins, because I see that he's like I say, I watched the Pompey game. He came on and he missed a big chance, but he's still that sort of old war horse where he doesn't look like he can run more than a mile an hour, but he tries. So I just wondered what the general sort of vibe was with Derby fans with James Collins.
Well, you're more than welcome to have him back if you want. Yeah, James Collins, flipping heck. I don't know how many times I spent last season, obviously our promotion season. I don't know how many times I left a game complaining about James Collins. I find him to be a very frustrating footballer. Even though he did get nearly 20 goals last season in the end, I think. I don't know how he managed that, because I don't really know what he brought to our team, but we got promoted with him starting most games. So in that sense, I suppose he did well. Now he's very much just our second choice striker. We've got Jerry Yates up front, who a bit hit and miss, but he's better than Collins.
Yeah.
Put quite bluntly, put down to the facts. And I think if it came to it, I think Derby would certainly be looking to strengthen further with additional forward options in January if that came to the case. And I imagine that would mean James Collins going further down the pecking order. So I don't know how much longer he's got left on his contract off the top of my head, but I don't think he's got much longer left in a Derby shirt, put it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting you said how much longer he's got left in his contract. I thought you were going to say how much longer he's got left in his knees, because it looks painful, that poor guy running around. But
particularly when he tries, when the ball often bounces off his knees when he's trying to control it as well. So
absolutely valuable. Speaking of dodgy knees as well, we had another player that's you said to me just before we started recording that he's not really getting a look in at the minute. But again, it'd be remiss of me not to mention Sonny Bradley, who's our club captain. You know, he took us up, you know, to the promised land, so to speak, and he'll always be held in high esteem at Kenilworth Road as well. And I hope at least he makes an appearance to say hello to the fans. I'm not necessarily saying that he's going to be kitted up from your perspective, but again, it's one of those ones where you've caught him at the back end of his career, really, which is a shame for you guys. But is he doing a job when he does get the minutes?
I mean, barely ever plays, to be honest. Even when we were down in League One, he didn't feature very often because, as mentioned, we had Nelson and Cashin who were playing pretty much every week, and that meant that Bradley never got a look in. And then this season, obviously, we've just mentioned Nat Phillips. He's the third choice, and that meant Sonny Bradley is basically fourth choice. So I he's been on the bench a fair bit, so I imagine Luton fans will get to say their thank you in some shape or form with him warming up. But whether he comes on or not, he might do, because Paul wants the kind of manager who very often likes to shore up a defence by bringing on another defender, so he may get a look in. But he's barely ever featured for us. He's, when he has played, he has looked a bit shaky, and maybe that is down to the fact he's getting on a bit. His knees aren't great. He's done a job, but as I say, he's never really been a regular, and I imagine most Derby fans will completely forget about him in a few years' time if they're being down to the point. Yeah,
he's one of those players where I feel like he did well to get himself a contract with a club of your stature. Do you know what I mean? Like, he went.
Paul Warren likes experience, so when someone like him was available, I think he was always going to get signed up. But he's done his job ultimately. So I don't think Derby. I agree with you. I don't think Derby fans have seen the best of him, particularly when he scored that screamer against Middlesbrough. I'll always remember that in a Luton shirt, because he was a decent player back in his pomp, wasn't he? But he's definitely past his best at this stage.
It was one of those ones where when we had him in League One, he was an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender, and then we obviously went up, and there were times when you thought, well, he's going to get done for pace and things like that, and he will always get done for pace. He's not blessed for speed, but he had those moments in him, and he was ultimately a captain. He would have occasionally have an absolute worldy game where you think, crikey, where's that come from? You know, but like I say, it's a shame that you've not seen the best of him, but it happens to all players, doesn't it? They come to they have a shelf life. But he'll get a good reception at the weekend, or before the weekend, Friday night. The only other cheeky comment I was going to make to you about is that Carlton Morris's son comes to Kenilworth Road on Friday as well. Is it Goodmine? Am I saying that right? We need to see these two guys line up next to each other, because they are absolute doppelgangers.
I was wondering where that was going.
I saw your face, and you're like, Phil, what are you talking about? But anyone that's watching this and he's going to the game on Friday, look at those two. They look exactly alike.
It's bizarre, isn't it? I remember when he signed, and I was like, that's Carlton Morris. And I think Carlton Morris even commented on it.
He did.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to play, because Warren has a tendency to not favour him in away games. He's he's one of those who he seems to favour at home, but there's every chance that he does play.
Yeah.
So if he does, it's going to be like that Spider-Man meme, isn't it, where they're going to be pointing at each other like, huh?
For sure.
So yeah, that's something to look out for on Friday night if he does play.
I'm looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully they allude to it as well. That'd be quite funny if they've got a bit of a sense of humour about them. But right, I'm going to wrap up with the most important bit. Is what do you think the score's going to be for Friday night?
I mean, Derby, very difficult to predict because they're just so negative away from home. So I'm not expecting a win by any means. And then, as we were alluding to, Luton, also quite hard to predict when it comes to their home form because they often get decent results without playing very well. So I'll go for a draw. With the hopeful Derby fan really coming out to flourish here. And I'll say 1-1.
Okay.
But if I was going to go for a win for either side, I'd definitely go for Luton, I think.
You've fallen into that trap again, Ryan. I said it. You guys all come on here and you play us, and you overplay us. But I get the reasoning though, Ryan. I do genuinely. So I just want to say thank you, Ryan, for coming on. It's been a genuine pleasure having you on and chatting and having a good laugh. And I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I understand that you're meeting Ollie for a drink outside the stadium on Friday. So that'll be good for him to chat your ear off as well.
Yeah. Well, I've been to Kenilworth Road a few times because I used to live in Luton.
Right.
So I went when it was back in the good old days in the conference. So I saw Luton play, off the top of my head, Southport, Dorchester Town, a team beginning with W, Welling, I think. Yeah. Saw all those when it was Andre Gray back in the day, and that big lanky striker up front who was absolutely useless, whose name escapes me. Scott Rendell, is that
Scott
it?
Rendell, yeah. The winning goal scorer against Norwich in the FA Cup.
He was shocking. He's one of the worst footballers I've ever seen play in my life. But I've always had Luton. Luton have always had like a fond place in my heart because of that.
Yeah.
And seeing them get back up to the Championship and obviously to the Premier League, I absolutely loved. And that probably reflected a bit too often when I was doing the podcast from a neutral Championship perspective. But it's going to be good to go back to Luton on Friday and just have a nice time, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, enjoy. We do some good food now. The Premier League, if there's one thing that you did get out of the Premier League, it's try the Kenny Henny. It's just next door to the club shop. Do some
I was just going to go in the is it the White House? The spoons. I was just going to go there instead because that's where I spent most of my student days there. So
I see.
I might do one or the other, but I'm not too sure.
Well, it's not bad. You've either got Norm's curry goat, or you could get the Kenny Henny for a bit of chicken and chips. It's quite good actually. You've got a couple of options up there now. So, but enjoy it.
Sold me.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm doing my little bit of advertising for Luton's business. But Ryan, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. And fingers crossed I can speak to you later on in the season when the return fixture happens.
No problem, mate. Look forward to it.
Take care. Cheers, Ryan.
Cheers, pal.
So there you have it, everyone. Ryan from the Second Tier podcast has been reeled in like all the other opposition podcasters, and he's not quite gone for a victory for his team. To be fair to him, Derby are away and Luton are at Kenilworth Road. So this is where we get the points, as I've discussed before. So he's treading carefully about his prediction. But lovely to hear from Ryan. Lovely to sort of reminisce on the likes of James Collins and Sonny Bradley. But I hope that all the Hatters have a successful time on Friday night up at Kenilworth Road. Drink, be merry, be loud, get behind the team, and I'll hand back over to Ollie and Mark. Take it away, gents.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Ryan. Really appreciate that. Right, so Ryman, who from this Derby team is keeping you up at night?
I think there's a couple in there. I mean, Yates, not massively impressive, I think, in his last game, but Yates has always looked dangerous when we've played him, obviously for Blackpool in the past as well. We know Mendes-Lang is a decent player too. So, those two in particular, I think can cause us problems. And I think they play a 4-3-3. It'd be nice to see a 4-3-3 at Kenilworth Road, won't it? So, and obviously, therefore, you've always got the worry of, the pullback and players getting in the box, etc. I mean, they've just scored 4 goals against Pompey. And prior to that, drew, I think, against Burnley. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but a good
It was a
0-0
0-0 draw.
Yeah, I didn't know if it's the previous game or not, but yeah, so two very, very good results. And of course, shows that they've got the ability to shut us out as well. So yeah, decent defenders, and we're not creating loads from open play. But yeah, I'll go with Mendes-Lang and Yates as my two biggest worries, if I'm honest.
Yeah, well, for me, the biggest threat for me would be David Azo, because I think he would sort of dominate and dictate the midfield. But yes, as you said,
injured.
3-man midfield. I think Abu Adams, him breaking from deep as well, it's going to be a real problem. We're going to be outnumbered before a ball's been kicked in midfield, and it's not going to look good. It's not going to go well.
We've been so positive, haven't we, this podcast? It's been so positive. But you're right. I mean, it's difficult. It's difficult to see us holding out against certain teams. And we're getting played through too easily. And there's a way of scoring against Luton that if any team does any form of homework, they'll work out very, very quickly, right?
Yeah, all Ben Osborne needs to do, straight ball through the middle, bish, bash, bosh. Adams and Gudjman, they occupy Clark and Krause, and then bam, ball gets to Osborne, straight through the middle.
Yeah, or
and
just
then
stand on the edge of our box.
Stand on the edge of the box.
Our box. You'll be sorted.
It's that simple. It's really alarming. As I've said, time and time again, wash, rinse, repeat. On the bright side, we won't need to do any more of these match previews. We can literally just record the same one, dub over the opposition team, and then go again. We might actually do that and see if anyone notices. Right, so let's go to score predictions.
Despite all that negativity, I've actually predicted us to win. I'm not sure it'll be convincing. I think it'll be a tight game. Derby are a lot better than they were away from home at the start of the season. So it'll be a tough game. We've talked about frailties till we're blue in the face. I think we could get a win here. I've gone to tight win just to kind of keep us going. And then the same old frailties will be much more apparent when we rock up at Bristol and Swansea.
Yeah. Well, I have gone for an optimistic 1-1, and you've gone optimistic with the win. I honestly don't know how to call this game, because I don't think Luton are going to win. I think Derby, they play as a unit, they play as a team, and I think they can hurt us. As I said before in the Danger Men segment, I think they will hurt us. They're going to get in behind. They're going to get in front. Is it behind when it's cut back to the edge of the box in front of all your defenders standing there like statues? I don't know, but they're going to cause us problems. I can see it right now, and our forwards need to be on it. But I can just see us scoring one goal, because we're not exactly the most free scoring team, and maybe we nick it at the death like we did against Stoke. But again, I think Derby are a better team unit than Stoke, so I don't see that happening. Oh yeah,
we're gonna have to play better. That's for sure. I mean, we did play well against Stoke as well. Shouldn't be forgotten. But yeah, it's gonna be tight either way. It just depends on whether we get home or Luton turn up, or whether eventually that home form succumbs to the away form. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all about turning up, really, like the players actually putting in a shift. If we can perform like we did against Stoke, actually have some backbone about us, then I feel we can get a point out of this game, maybe squeeze a cheeky win. But that's us done for this week. Thank you for watching the OK Football Happy Hour as we and if you're still watching this, why not subscribe for even more Luton Town content? We also do championship content. So just hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it, and you'll be notified when we go live with the fan phone-ins that we do every Sunday. But that's it from us, and bring on Friday night under the lights. I'm already salivating. for the curried goat. I can't wait.
Every
As
cloud.
always, yeah. Come on, you hatters.